Hi everyone, this is Miss Fusaro, and I'm about to explain to you the senior portfolio requirements for the 2022-2023 school year for our God's Monsters in the Apocalypse class. I just want to put in one caveat that I do have my 1-year-old daughter here, so if you hear some noise in the background, that's what you're hearing, and hopefully she won't be too much of a distraction for us. So here's an explanation of the portfolio and what's required of you. So first, just an explanation of the course overall. The course is probably not like something that you have taken before in high school, in the sense that we everything we do goes to the portfolio, and we don't do a lot of what I call traditional assessments. What I mean by that is you're not going to see any multiple choice tests in this class. You're not going to see like quizzes, things that would be more like sitting in rows. Everything is related to the portfolio and extended work with a big focus on working, getting feedback, quality feedback, revising some more. And when I say feedback, it's imperative that you understand that you are part of that feedback process. It's not just you're doing work, you're hearing from me and you're doing work again. The goal is to foster independent learners and building resiliency within you, which means that you should be able to give feedback to one another. You should be able to step back from your own work and give yourself feedback, be reflective to give yourself feedback. So, the big aim for this year is using the portfolio for that reflective process so that you can be independent in your learning, so that you know how to make shifts in your own process to become the best you could possibly be. Okay, so what is the portfolio? Well, first thing to take note of is the date updated. So the date updated is the last time that I've made an update to anything that's on this requirement paper, and that's important. I'm not going to make a ton of updates anymore from this point. I don't anticipate making any more updates from this point forward, but it's important to take note of that because it tells you if there have been any changes. The few changes that you will see will be dates for the checkpoints, because I don't know when marking periods are going to end yet. So I don't have dates set for those checkpoints because I don't have that those calendar dates yet, because they're not set by the school. So I there are some parameters that I have to follow, which is why those will be those shifts. So you'll see the date updated and you'll get the information there. But okay, the portfolio itself, it's your culminating assessment for the duration of the year. So this is something you're working on over the course of the entire year. Okay, you will continue to build and add to the portfolio with 4 progressive checkpoints throughout the year. Please note, everything counts. However, your portfolio's value will continue to grow throughout the year, thus making it progressive. At each checkpoint, you will need to include work products to demonstrate your mastery of the standards covered by that particular checkpoint. And that would be my daughter. So, checkpoint number 1, well, understanding mastery of the standards, we're referring to the power standards of the course, which I'll get into a little bit more over here. So, checkpoint number 1, I'm going to show you the big breakdown, and then we'll go into the minutia of that. It is due November 3rd, okay? And that's worth 125 points, okay? The reflection. The reflection is going to be an essay, essentially, and that's going to address standards 1 and 4, specifically addressing each learning target. And standards 6 and 7 are all encompassing. The mandatory work products in there is the fairy tale piece that you're gonna work on, your fairy tale that you're writing, and the creation project. So anything else you want to put in the portfolio, like if when we do like little bits of writing in class, or if you have a do now, or if you guys recorded one of your discussions or anything like that, that's up to you. That you have full reign to put anything else in the portfolio to prove that you've mastered those standards. But the 2 products that you must have for checkpoint number 1 is the fairy tale piece and the creation project. So let's talk a little bit more about the breakdown for each checkpoint, and then I'll show you what that means. So checkpoint 2, you're going to address in the reflection and all your work products related to standard 5. If you didn't get mastery in checkpoint 1, then you're also going to go back to those things from checkpoint 1. The mandatory work products for checkpoint 2 will be your first blog and Norse project. So when I say first blog minimum, you will write 4 blogs over the course of the year. In your portfolio, at least 2 of them over the course of the year must be in your portfolio. So 1 per term, essentially. If you loved your first blog and you want to put it in checkpoint 1, great. But at least 1 of them must be in there by checkpoint 2. That's what these things mean. You must have these things in there by that particular checkpoint. If you want to put all of your blogs in the portfolio, great. You want to put 3 out of the 4, fine. But at least 2 out of the 4 over the course of the year must be in there. For checkpoint 3, you're going to address standard 3. And checkpoint 3, mandatory work products. This is open, okay? So that means that there's no particular work product that's mandatory for the 3rd checkpoint. So you have a lot of freedom for what you're going to put in there. Because standard 3 is reading fiction. So at that point, we've read a lot of fiction. So I'm leaving it open for you to determine how you want to demonstrate that. There's so much freedom for that one. Checkpoint 4, that's standard 2, and you're going to have at least your 2nd blog by that point. So 2 out of the 4, remember, like I said, and your monster project. Your monster project is the big one that you're going to be working on over the course of the whole spring term. Now, I know this is overwhelming, so just take a breath. Please realize this is an entire year's worth of work, okay? I don't want you to get stressed out. I'm just being transparent with you so you know what's up ahead and what's coming for you. So I don't like surprises as far as like expectations and responsibilities. I'm not a fan of that when it comes to surprises, and I don't expect that of you. So I give this to you in advance the same way like the syllabus so that you can plan and you can organize yourself. And as we do everything, like you come in for a lesson and let's say you really love that particular do now, or I gave you a poem that day that resonated with you, you could think to yourself, oh, I could do something for the portfolio for this. And I always wanted every single day in the back of your mind, what power standard could this address? Is there a learning target that this could address? I could use it for my portfolio. I could use it for my I could use it for my portfolio. That is the goal. Your portfolio by the end of the year should be a beautiful demonstration of everything that you are. That's why I'm not a big fan for my particular class, like multiple choice tests, because I just don't think for my particular course it gives the proper depiction of your growth and your learning. I prefer to see something over time and your progress over time and the bits and pieces that resonated with you. Okay, so now let's talk about the pieces that go in here. As I mentioned, the different work products, this is a little bit clearer, like that's required for the portfolio. You will choose what you will include in the portfolio from all the work we do, inclusive of in-class writing, blogs, presentation, blah, blah, but there's several assessments which must be in the portfolio, the fairy tale, creative writing piece. I'm going to clarify that. Creative writing piece. Your creation project, the Norse lesson. Make sure that I actually wrote that in there. Yeah, Norse project lesson. Norse lesson / project. This way it's clear. The monster project and 2 blogs. Okay. The presentation of the portfolio. So I'm asking you to build it on Google Sites. This is for those of you who are maybe not super familiar with building websites, or like it's just you don't have the time to like build out a website, or maybe if I should say this, if you are in Mr. Whalen's class, like advanced class, or you are familiar with building websites, or you have that ability and you want to build your own site, talk to me separately. We can absolutely work on that. For everyone else, I'm asking you to do a Google site. Please note, okay, you're going to build a Google site. You need to create your own Gmail account. Do not use the DOE email for your Google site, because you will lose access to your DOE email after you graduate high school. And I do not want you to lose access to all of this work when you graduate. That would be an absolute That would be a horror. That would be a shame. That would be terrible. So you will need to use your own personal Gmail account. What you will have to do, however, is give me editing access to the Google site. So you're going to share the site with me. And again, I will guide you through this, the technology aspect of it as well. So hopefully, if this is not something you're familiar with, I will give you those skills too. So you'll learn how to build a website by the time you come out of this class too. The goal, again, also is to make you marketable so that you're going to give this link to your college and say, check out my portfolio. It's amazing work that I've done over this college class that I took while I was in high school. There's a lot of reasons behind the portfolio. You could click on mine as a sample of my own personal portfolio. Obviously, it's not for modern mythology class, but you could see the other work that like I've done as an educator. Um, Everything in the portfolio is going to be shared as public. Okay, like in your Google Drive, shared as public. Okay, so take a pause here to make sure we understand the importance of that. You must acknowledge that you are a digital citizen and this is going out into the world. And even if you think you've deleted something, there are sites like Wayback Machine, which record every moment of every second on the web. So there's nothing that's ever actually deleted. So you need to bear that in mind, that it's not gone. So as soon as you make things that are public, it's forever. So you have to be really mindful and conscientious of the face that you're putting forward to the world. Okay, the written reflection. This is arguably one of the most important parts of the portfolio. This is the first thing that I am looking at when I look at the checkpoints of your portfolio, okay? It's the paper, the essay that you're writing for each checkpoint, so you'll have 4 reflections by the end of the year. This embodies Standard 7, so you don't have to address the learning targets of Standard 7, okay? That's not necessary because the fact that you're writing the reflection is Standard 7. But the reflection itself, what it must look like, okay, it should have at least so the reflection essentially explains everything that you've done for that particular checkpoint, all the work products that you've posted in your portfolio, and the direct links to the learning target. So there's a lot that goes into the reflection. So I made a separate document that explains the reflection a little bit further. You're going to click over here, read this for how to write your reflection. And that brings you here, okay? So like I said, over here, the reflection is powered Standard 7. So what I wanted to tell you is like the example of the metaphorical as a lawyer, okay? When thinking about it as a lawyer, the reflection serves as your opening and closing statement in your court case. And each of the items presented in the portfolio are your pieces of evidence. The evidence makes no sense without explanation. So the bad example, the lawyer says, I present this glove as evidence. The judge says, evidence of what? And the lawyer's like, the murder. The judge, I'm the judge here in this metaphor, will not do the work for the lawyer. And so good example is the lawyer says, I present this glove as evidence of the murder. The glove, which was found in the defendant's car the morning after the police found the body, is covered in the victim's blood. It's clear that the defendant's possession of the bloody glove connects the defendant to the murder. So that's the reflection. The reflection is the connection between everything. And in that circumstance, you have your each specific learning target and your work product. So if you're looking at, for example, your first one, which is composing fiction, okay? So it's like, I can utilize literary elements, for example, structure, tone, diction, mood, to craft an original narrative, script, and or original poetry. It's like, okay, I address learning target 4B in my fairy tale creative writing piece because the structure of my writing piece was set up where I followed the genre of a fairy tale. I opened with Once Upon a Time, and I had a distinct villain, etc., etc., etc. That's going to be the second paragraph, because your reflection has 4 paragraphs, at least 4 paragraphs. And the first one is a brief introduction, letting us know like what the work products are and the standards that you're going to be addressing. And the paragraph is using the evidence of the standards and your work products, explain how your chosen assessments demonstrate that mastery. Also, when you're going to directly link to each work product to address those learning standards. So if you're talking about the fairy tale work piece as addressing that learning standard, then you're going to directly link to the fairy tale piece in the portfolio. So I could just click on it and go to the fairy tale piece to see it as part of your evidence. Then your next paragraph is going to be your growth as a learner. This should discuss process development and awareness. I have a whole group of questions down below that can help you with that. Obviously, I do not expect you to address each of these questions for every reflection. That would be absurd, and you wouldn't get into much depth that way. I'm really looking for depth as opposed to breadth. I want you to pick things that you could actually talk about as far as you as a learner. And then your 4th paragraph is just a conclusion, bridging things together and how, like, what led you towards that enlightenment. So your reflection is really critically important when it comes to your portfolio. The other aspects of the portfolio that's important to understand: copyright information. Your portfolio should be beautiful. You should have lots of pictures in there that make it come to life. Ideally, it would be your own images. If you're somebody who's an artist or a photographer, that's wonderful. Please do that. But not all of us are. Me, not all of us. I have 0 artistic talent whatsoever. In which case, by all means, use images, but you cannot use copyrighted images. Don't forget, this is public on the web and it's portfolio. So places that you can find free images: Pixabay, Unsplash. You have to cite things that you are using. Absolutely. Especially if it's particular images that require citation. So it's really important that you are aware of copyright information, and I want you to use the free images. Also, if you're going to use work in your artwork in your portfolio, do not share the link to any of the texts that we're reading in class, because they're approved for educational use only. They're not for public domain. Again, that would end up causing a copyright infringement. So just keep that for our class. And to note, if you are sharing your own work, try to watermark it or put your own mark on it on some level to prevent other people from taking it on the web. The About Me page. This is not something that I'm going to like as part of your grade, but it should be something, because this is forward facing your portfolio. It an explanation for why we're seeing what we're seeing. Okay, something that should be fun, like why did you take this class? How did you become first interested in this topic? It should be kind of fun. And if you're adding anything else to your portfolio, like let's say you're adding a tab for like your AP forensics class, like why are you in there? Why did you connect the two? Whatever the case is. So how does everything count? Okay, so all of these assessments are going to be collected at various points throughout the year. I'm going to collect your blogs during the blog dates, your fairy tale creation, and that's its own date, your Norse project, etc., 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 their own deadlines, and they're each going to have their own grade. But and you're going to have opportunities to revise those. I mean, not the final projects, like the final parts, because you're going to have different parts in between that. But so everything counts in between there, but then it counts again in your portfolio, because your portfolio should be the point where it's already been mastered. But you shouldn't put a piece of unfinished or unrevised work into your portfolio. So you should be totally satisfied with your fairy tale creation before you actually put it in the portfolio. So habits of success in the portfolio. It's not just learning progress. If you do not submit your portfolio checkpoints on time, your habits of success will be dropped in both responsibility and engagement. Okay. If you do not submit your portfolio at all by the final deadlines per term, Okay, so that's the January and the June. You will receive an F0 in both responsibility and engagement, regardless of anything else. Okay, so please bear that in mind. Your portfolio weighs in all aspects of this course. If you do not submit your checkpoints at all, even if you did all the work products. So you did your projects, you wrote your papers, but if you did not submit your portfolio, you did not submit the checkpoints for the portfolio, you will get F0 in responsibility and engagement. Okay. A note on revision. You will have 2 weeks, okay, from the date that I've given you feedback, your grade, in order for you to make revisions to your reflection, to your portfolio. 2 weeks. I will give you feedback and you have 2 weeks from that date. I will not accept revisions after that point. That's my threshold point. Okay. You have 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, I highly recommend that you conference with me, unless you completely feel good or it was a very minor thing. My feedback was so clear, very easy to fix, no problem, but take advantage of those conferences. And over here, I have a whole bunch of sample portfolios from the past. Now, I want you to take note of something. Every year, the requirements for the portfolio shift. I change things up to refreshen the course. As I learn, I make those changes, but you could still get a really good idea and a good sense from these portfolios. I'm going to click on one to give you an example. So this is Selena Zhang from last year, from the class of 2022. She had a beautiful portfolio. Take a look at her reflections. Where she addressed her reflections. So I want to just kind of show you what I meant by like it being how she addresses the learning targets. You see where I'm highlighting. So over here is what I'm talking about as far as linking. So she talks about like, I did not achieve mastery in my first submission of my fairy tale writing piece. And she links directly to her fairy tale writing piece. Their fairy tale writing piece is different than yours. Again, I make shifts every single year, but that's what I mean by direct links. And their culture project, she makes direct links to that. See, this is a mistake over here. There, we need access. It must have changed when they graduated. And that's actually why we'll ask for a portfolio druid. I ask for portfolio druids in each of the class to help me go through and make sure that everything is public access and that the links are working. As far as submission of the portfolio, you're going to submit your published portfolio link in this Google form. When you hit publish on your Google site, you're going to get a published link. And I have a video over there that explains that for you, the video sharing your published site link. You're going to make sure that's the link that you're sharing. And you put that this way. I have a Google sheet that comes up with all of those links, and it makes it easier for me to organize and go through when I'm going through your portfolios. If you have any questions about the senior portfolio, please contact me, let me know. My email is kfusaropizzo@schools.nyc.gov. Thank you so much.